Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Pink Tron. We're going to cut straight to it and ask Craig Martin, what are you drinking tonight?
So I am drinking a Kingsville Canadian beer, Woodrunner, barrel-aged stout. And I like the subtext on this one, for ceux qui erront. So anyway, that's...
Very good. And how about you, Brent?
I have a Copper Moon Malbec, which I thought was a domestic Malbec, but I was looking at the box. It says it's a blend of domestic and international grapes, so who knows what that means.
Do you have any idea where it comes from?
The winery is in Kelowna, so that's close to where I live in Canada, but
okay, wow.
relatively speaking, anyway.
I don't think I've ever heard of a Canadian Malbec before.
Hmm.
I have a bottle of Castellore Chianti, which is actually really very nice. It may have come from the £6 selection Aldi rather than the £4.50, which is obviously a massive treat. The extra £1.50 makes all the difference. But Brent, a slight change from water this week.
Yeah, well, I despite being a 42-year-old man, I can still succumb to peer pressure. So actual wine.
So we're both corrupting you. Apologies. This week it's going to be the fourth round of Zwift Racing League. It is the fourth round. And in the A's and B's there will be 2 laps of Caspat. The C's and D's also doing Caspat, but they do a lap and a half and they finish on the aqueduct on the second lap. Craig, I really like this route. I think it's a really good points race.
So do I. I'm actually a little surprised they didn't go with Petit Boucle. If you're going to do 2 laps, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, I think I was also a little bit surprised that they're using, in very, very, very large inverted commas, a summit finish at the top of the aqueduct KOM, which is, it's got to be, a whole 30 metres?
Yeah.
I think if they were going to use a summit finish, and let's be fair, they basically used a sprint finish, I would have used the Petit Com every single time.
I think there's no benefit to the summit finish, to making it shorter and doing a summit finish at Petit Com. So if they are doing that climb only once for the D's especially is going to that's going to knock some time off. And I think the sequence of the second time through Pave for points and then the aqueduct for the win, I think that's going to be an interesting finish.
I just think if they're looking for a sprint finish, why don't you just finish at the end of Pave?
Yeah, because this one's a climb than a sprint.
Fair enough. A's and B's, 2 laps. That is not a short race on a Tuesday evening. Or very, very early morning for Craig, around about lunchtime for Brent.
Yeah, two trips up Petit Com on a 46.6K thing. We're going to be hour 10 maybe for the B's.
You and I, Brent, actually, we both did this in one of the Stampede races, and I think we're around about an hour 15 for that. So if you take into account draft, then yeah, I guess an hour 10 for the B's.
Maybe a little faster. I mean, it depends on the group you're in and how much people want to push on the flat.
Yeah, true. And I think my experience of racing in Division B1 has been I've got no hope in hell of them holding the front group. But it's definitely a course of challenges. So going off the top of my head, I may be wrong on this one. So it is first across the line for Marina, Pave, Aqueduct, and Petit Com. But I think it's only first fastest through segment for Marina and Petitcom.
You got it.
Yep. So it'll be interesting. I'm very surprised that there isn't a fastest through segment on Parve, and for that matter, Aqueduct. I don't understand why they've done it this way. I don't know if either of you have any insight into it, but I don't understand why for every other race it's first across the line and fastest through segment. I don't understand why they haven't done it on this.
So they have done this before, James. If you remember, the first race of ZRL2 comes to mind off the top of my head, where only some of, like, there were some segments that didn't count at all. There were some segments that were only first across the line. So, yeah, no, this has been done before.
I wonder, is there not a limit to how many sort of preems they can calculate? Because that's 10 preems.
Firstly, they don't use Zwift power to calculate the preems, and secondly, there are actually only 4. If you were to set this up in Zwift power, you would basically use the 4 different preems, but as lap 1 and lap 2. Although, actually, to be fair, it'd have to be 8 because there are different rules on each. But I think 8 is the max as well. But you then have one for the finish line as well. But my understanding is that WTRL get all of their race data from a direct feed into Zwift. So if they were solely using Zwift power with the maximum number of preems as 8, they wouldn't be able to do all of them. But they've constantly reassured me they don't use Zwift power for their races. So I don't know. I just don't think I understand the logic, to be honest.
So, James, I would guess that they have some limitation in whatever system they've built as well. I mean, it's probably not a hard limitation that they could get around, but I'm guessing that it's due to the same sort of thing.
Yeah, could well be. Either way, interesting. So we've got the first sprint within 800 meters of the start, which is always lovely. So we're basically going to be going full tilt for 500 meters, maybe 100-meter respite, and then sprinting.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've done that start in HSRL many times. It's loads of fun.
We have, and it's it's loads of fun, stroke brutal, all at the same time. After that, we've got quite a bit of a breather. When we did this in HSRL, there was definitely a breather. Pace definitely slowed up an awful lot after the first sprint until we get to Parve. Now, Craig, you're in B2, which probably should be B1. Brent and I are both in B1. They like to kick us an awful lot, so I don't actually know how much it's going to slow up between Marina and Parve. And Parve being the harder of the 2 sprints, I'm going to go with 350 meters, even though I haven't actually looked.
It's around that. I think it might be a little longer.
It's definitely a tough one. And then you've got the aqueduct, I think 1.8 kilometers afterwards. And before the aqueduct, you've got a series of 5% rollers as well, which can really, really thin out the group. And it's going to be tough. I think the Parve aqueduct section is actually harder than Petitcom itself.
I would disagree. I love that section.
You would. So it's Craig is all about the punch.
Well, and punch and then punch again. I really probably should start doing that in spots that aren't primes. But yeah, that's good idea, James. Thank you.
Yeah, that's that Pave to Aqueduct section, James, I think we'll see the slowdown after Marina, even in B1, because just like even on our front group last time, like I looked at the paces and stuff, and it did come down once we had got through the first climb. Like the challenge on the B1 this past week in McCurry, right, was like we hit the sprint and then everybody put on the attack to shake guys on the climb. But the second and third lap wasn't like that. So I think they'll drop the pace a bit after Marina, but then from Pave through to the top of Aqueduct will be full gas.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Then we've probably got about, I'm going to say about 3 kilometres up to the start of Petitcom. Top end, very top end of B, probably 6 minutes. And C's probably looking at 7:30, and D's a little bit slower than that. So it's definitely a sort of a volcano type climb. It's not up all the way. There are a couple of flat bits, and the steepest bits are towards the end. But we've got a nice long descent down towards the finish line, where we'll sprint again in the second lap. So, oh god, this is a long midweek race route, and it's definitely going to be tough. But I think it'll also be a load of fun.
I think it should be good for like race within a race within your group type stuff. I think it'll break up at Aqueduct, but there'll be chances to like chase down groups and break, all that stuff all over the race course.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think I will be able to stay through Aqueduct. I definitely have the potential of being shaken on the first time up Petitcombe.
Yeah, whereas I'm the opposite. I think I'll get dropped on the Aqueduct and maybe make up a bit of time on Petitcombe, and maybe catch a few stragglers and form a group there. But it's just
James, you know what? If that's the case, go early on Aqueduct. Go early on Aqueduct. Don't go as hard. Don't go as hard as I do when I'm going for fastest time. But go early.
Yeah, I think because I was de-essing last week, so I didn't race that one. The week before, I basically tried to go too easy early on to set myself up for a sprint. And I think what the first 2 points races in B1 have shown me is that I'm not going to be remotely competitive in a sprint. My sprint is okay. It's definitely not amazing. But to actually put myself in a position where I'm able to stay with the group rather than worrying about whether or not I sprint. So I'll push through Marina. I'm guessing probably 500 watts or so. I'm definitely not going to be looking to go more than that. Then long recovery into Pave, and then probably try and do the same thing. And like you say, Craig, maybe go a bit early on Aqueduct, and then try and recover for the Petitcombe, which would be my strength. And then downhill, start finish line, do it all over again.
Yeah.
But
anyway, I think it's an interesting course in that there's some different things, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I put this and Toro Trail well down as the 2 most exciting routes of the Season 4 or Season 1 2021/2022, depending on which way you'd like to see it.
A horrible, wordy designation.
Yeah, let's just call it Season 4, much easier. So that is Caspat times 2 or times 1.5 if you're in C or D. And that brings us on to the Herd Winter Racing League. We've already had race 1. Brent and I both did that this evening. It is the whole Lotta Lava route in Watopia, which is basically Watopia start pens on the Marina, round 2/3 volcano circuit, up the volcano calm, down the volcano calm, and then you do the final third of the volcano circuit. Race distance is going to make me add up lead in.
17.4.
17.4 with around about 180 metres of climbing. So, pinch points. You have the climb into volcano circuits from the eastern side of the volcano before the volcano climb, and also at the end of a race, and that will stretch things out. Brent, what was your overall perception of the race this evening?
Yeah, pretty much fit in. It was pretty tame until the volcano, and then away the speed went from there. There was a little push up that ramp, and we did make a little break, but it didn't really stick away. So, it's all your preference if you're kind of a sit at the back sort of folks and want to catch up, or like me and you live in fear of breakaways and always sit at the front.
Yeah, so I mean, I think on ours, the pace at the start was lower than I expected. So you come out for the Marina Pan, turn left, you got a 3% incline before you head over the bridge, and it all stuck together fairly nicely throughout that. And there was, like you say, a bit of a split with first ramp into Volcano, but it was essentially a fairly tame start, and then everyone just gave it everything on the Volcano climb, and then went down, and same thing happened when we kicked into Volcano again. So it's a pretty straightforward route. Fastish start, back into tempo, maybe slightly over, and then probably VO2 up most of Volcano.
Yeah, I was 360 on Volcano, so it's about right.
Yeah, I was 305 with an FTP of around 270. So, yeah. Craig, you haven't done this yet. When are you hoping to give it a go?
So my only option is 8 p.m. tomorrow. I'm working tomorrow, so and Sunday. So yeah, if I get it done, it'll be 8 p.m. tomorrow. I'm not sure. My legs are feeling a lot better, so I might give her a go. But yeah.
So your 8 p.m. is my 1 a.m. So that'll be race 6.
Yes, that's correct.
That's the OTR stomping ground, I believe.
It is. I actually really enjoy getting into the middle of the OTR ATP battle. That always is.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. And as to what else we have to look forward to over the next week, so we've got the Herd Winter Racing League over Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then we have the Herd Series, which is our women's only category racing series, which is on Saturday and Sunday. That is a single lap of TikTok, which will be flat and fast. The Herd of Mountain Goats on Sunday and Monday is the delightful Three Sisters route with 895 metres of climbing. And then on Stampedes, which is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, that is 2 laps of TikTok. So about 38 kilometres long. Sorry, Brent.
I missed last week.
Oh, you missed the story of line 8. Oh, that was a pity. And then Bullseye on Wednesday and Thursday, we have 5 laps of Fan Flats in Richmond, which is around about 27, 28 kilometres long. I think the laps are bang on 5k. I did Bullseye this week, and it was absolutely disgusting. I was cursing myself for falling off the front group, and then I had a look at the fact that the guy that was leading the front group was 117 kilos, and whenever I looked at his power, he was doing 4.2. Turns out he averaged 3.6 at 413 watts for the entire race. And
wow.
There's poor little me at 68 kilos, wondering why can't I hang on to this group. But that was really hard. Having said that, I had a really fun race at the very, very back with a guy called Andrew, we basically sprinted against each other at the end of each lap. I won the first one, and he won the second, third, and fourth. And on the fourth one, I gave it absolutely everything. I hit 14.3 watts per kilo, and he still beat me. But
James, I was watching. You started late.
Oh, I thought I started the moment I saw his watts go up.
You had to start. You had to start before him.
Yeah, but it was fun.
Yeah.
And it was a bit of a disappointing race, but I think our little battles made it a lot less disappointing than it could have been. Because I very nearly rage quit after about 2 laps. But
what was the course last Wednesday, James?
It was 4 laps of Seaside Sprint.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that would be good battles.
Yeah. It's fun coming down the last hill straight into the sprint, but not my best, but there was still a nice little mini battle to be had. So we move on to what has Zwift done to annoy us this week. Let's start with you, Craig.
Honestly, nothing. And this is, I've been mostly not paying attention to Zwift because, well, I can't ride right now, or I shouldn't ride right now. I kind of, through way overdoing it, ended up with my quad or hip flexor or something strained, and I kept re-injuring it. So I'm trying to stay off it as long as I can in order to not turn it into something chronic as I've done before.
How about you, Brent?
So I'm actually going to give Zwift a little credit and say this is like things my bike did to annoy me this week, because you'll remember my shifter cable broke on Monday.
Yep.
So I actually did the Tuesday's ZRO race in a single gear, the whole race, but I did turn down the trainer difficulty to, like, I don't know, barely anything. It was not quite at 0, but it was a little bit up. So I was, through the magic of Zwift, I was able to still sort of be in a race and competitive, but, couldn't sprint to save my life because I was, to get over 500 or 600 watts, I was doing 120 RPMs. But
so on that note, and to our audience, can we just point out, so Brent is racing in the Herder Bidets in Division B1 in EMEA East, I think. Yep. And despite the fact he only had 1 gear, he still finished in the front group of a race.
Yeah, until I got dusted on the sprint at the end, but I was there till the end.
You're there till the end, and you can't really be expected to have a sprint with only 1 gear, unless you choose your 1 gear to be something absolutely ridiculous, which would have killed you for the rest of the race.
Yeah. So anyway, and then today I was chasing Thomas Fernandez and a couple other guys down the volcano into the finish, and in the sprint I managed to sprint my foot right out of my pedal at the finish line. I just about fell off my bike. So
I've definitely managed to unclip during a sprint, and it's like this feeling of like, oh God, what just happened? Then you work out what happened. It's like, what do you do now?
Yeah, thankfully it was literally right at the finish line, so I can't claim it cost me any time or anything. But it was a great finish, great group coming down the bunch, and everybody really close, hammering it through. So good fun.
I lost an HSRL race on points to Cy Seymour on clipping on a sprint. So all good.
So mine is a bit of a pity party, I suppose, and isn't really anything that Zwift has done, but it's given me quite a bit of back pain. My quads have been quite sore for the last couple of weeks, and as a result, my race results haven't been at the level that I would have liked, and it's given me a bit of a kick in confidence. So to try and counter that, I have a Word document that is entitled "School of Flog" by one certain previously German, but actually now Australian. Congratulations on your new nationality, Mark. So Mark, who's the captain of the Platypus, is very fond of flogging people, and I am the next target with my School of Flog training plans for the next 4 weeks and possibly 8. So I've decided to take a little step away from racing, apart from ZRL, to go and absolutely mutilate myself for 4 weeks to see what we can do. But sorry, Zwift, it wasn't your fault at all. It's probably entirely mine and my stupid watt bike and the stupid seat post, which has now been fixed by applying around about probably 10 layers of masking tape around the seat post, so it will not budge for love or money. But
that's not fixing, James. I'm sorry.
It's bodging, Craig. But for anyone who hasn't heard, my seat post was dropping by about 6 centimeters per race, which any of you who've ridden on a bike where the seat is way too low will probably know it's actually really quite painful on the quads, and I think that's had a little bit of a lingering effect on me. So now that my my bodge appears to be holding, hopefully we can get things back on track. But I am in for a very, very painful month. Anyone else who would like to go through similar levels of pain, please get in touch with me or Mark, and we will more than happily allow you to join in the suffering. And anyone who wants to join in my workouts, please get in touch. I would love the company. And that is it from me. Do we have anything else to talk about? I think the silence is probably quite glaring. Big thanks to everyone who's been listening tonight, tomorrow, whenever you choose to listen to. We will be doing our live commentary stream in 20 minutes. This will probably be published afterwards. But a big thanks to Craig and Brent for joining me again. And we hope to be heard by you next week as well. See you later.
Bye.
Have a great night.